Let me say a special good morning to our listeners, those of you via Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on your FM dial. Good morning to you. Welcome to another edition of To The Point. Those of you viewing GBN TV, whether it's Channel 7, Channel 11 or Channel 20, good morning. And welcome to you also to our viewers and listeners via our social media platforms, whether it's the GBN Facebook page or the YouTube channels. Those of you via GBN's webpage, gbn.gd, good morning and welcome. I'm your host, GT, and I'm with you this morning here on To The Point. It's Wednesday, the 20th of December. The countdown is all before Christmas 2023. And on Wednesdays here on To The Point, we do accommodate, of course, various departments and representatives of the government. And with me this morning, we have no other than, let's say good morning to Ambassador Kennedy Roberts. Good morning to you, sir, and how are you? Welcome to The Point this morning. Good morning. And he's, of course, virtually with me this morning. Good morning to you, sir. How are you this morning, sir?
Good morning, GT, and good morning to our listeners and viewers at home and abroad. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, especially the last Wednesday before Christmas, and I'd like to take the opportunity off the bat to wish everybody a very pleasant and loving Christmas and New Year's 2024.
All right. Thank you a whole lot. Of course, it's a season, U-time season, and of course, lots of folks are geared up for all the good stuff that comes around on that particular day for those who do celebrate Christmas. Our conversation this morning, Ambassador, will be based on, it's a trend around the world. Everybody, it's a talk around the world. Some folks would say, climate change, the effects on small development states like the Caribbean, Grenada being part of it, and so forth. We have just saw the wrapping number of COP28. We're going to have a little conversation on that also this morning. And let's get the ball rolling on climate change, the effects on small island states, especially as Grenada, small island development states, the Caribbean as a whole. Climate change in general. Let's speak about that this morning.
Right. Well, GT, while we will zero in on climate change and we will start, I also want to take a broader look and put climate change within the context of what is going on in the world now and where Grenada is positioned and where we have to move forward to. Because what we saw yesterday in Grenada is something that a lot of people could not really understand. Those of us in the southern part of the island were experiencing overcast, little slight drizzle here and there. And when I saw the extent of water in the northern part of the island, everybody was basically saying, boy, climate change is real, climate change is real. And it takes local situations to really heighten the awareness of the population on the things that are taking place in this world. And climate change has been discussed for many years. A lot of people over the years were not acknowledging the reality of it. And I think today in 2023, we are convinced the science is clear that climate change is having an impact, and it is disproportionately impacting small island states like Grenada, in the Caribbean, in the Pacific, and those low-lying areas throughout the world. So climate change is real, and yesterday brought it home to us here in Grenada.
I will agree with you with that 100%, sir. Let me ask, how is climate change, affecting the Caribbean in particular? How would you respond to that?
Well, again, with most of our Caribbean countries are small island states. We know that over the years, the Caribbean is prone to the Atlantic hurricane season. We know that we have been impacted from the north in the Bahamas to the south in Trinidad in many different ways throughout the hurricane season. And what we're seeing is that outside of the hurricane season, we are prone to heavy rains and floods and other hazards that really impacts us. So again, based on our position, we are very vulnerable. Of course, the hurricanes are coming more regularly, they're coming more intense, and because the world is getting warmer, the seas is creating the environment for the rapid development of hurricanes. So So we have to be aware that it doesn't have to be a hurricane to impact us severely, as we saw yesterday. And it's really something we have to take into consideration as we go forward, because linking it to what you mentioned in the beginning with regards to COP28, one of the things that was agreed upon on the first day was a loss and damage fund that can really support countries, especially the small island states, in times like these with the impact of what has happened yesterday. So in the Caribbean, we're very vulnerable based on our geographic location, based on our small size generally. And it's something that we have to acknowledge, and then we have to ask, how do we mitigate against that? How do we address issues that can minimize the difficulties when we do have these sort of weather patterns?
You know, there's the key word that is talked about a whole lot, especially when in small development states, is cost. How does climate change, how does it cost small island development in terms of that? How does it really cost us?
Okay, and again, I will link it to the COP. Now, this year, the COP28 took place in Dubai, and Grenada had a pretty large delegation, and it was my first opportunity where I focused specifically on a few days relating to health. But when you get exposed to what is happening there, that is the location where a lot of decisions are made with regards to funding. And the small island development states, and which our minister was making reference to calling us the large ocean island states, because we have a lot more ocean than land mass. That's a place where a lot of negotiation has taken place. So hopefully the Grenada delegation, when we reconvene and we review our approach to next year, we have to look at the resources that are out there. And believe you me, there are a lot of resources out there to be tapped for various aspects, not only for climate change, but what we're realizing is that the interrelated nature between climate change and health, climate change and agriculture, climate change and your infrastructure. So there are a lot of linkages that are now being pulled together. So countries are now developing proposals. The institutions like the World Bank, they have reduced or reviewed their whole policies with regards to supporting these sort of programs relating to the UN Sustainable Development Goals and climate change in particular. So we have to look, first of all, at the global grant funding mechanism to justify why the developed world must contribute to countries adapting to climate change and putting things, for example, our infrastructure. We know the cost of infrastructure is not penny halfpenny, and when we look at a topography like Grenada, it is a lot more expensive to do roads as compared to Barbados or Antigua that is very flat. So where do we get those resources from? We cannot continue getting into debt. And our debt is as a result of a lot of other historical factors, which I won't go into now. But the countries of the world are realizing, and the small island development states are working together to say, hey, we are at a disadvantage, not because of our behavior, but by the behavior of a lot of other countries. So we have to get the resources to develop our countries to address the realities of climate change, which is happening as a result of a lot of what's going on in the industrial world. So in terms of funding, first of all, we have to look at. However, we also have to look internally, because at times we tend to focus on dollars alone, but we have human resources, which is our greatest asset. And when we can mobilize our people, when we can get communities to understand the importance of not dumping in the river and cleaning your drains and cutting your overhanging branches and doing these actions contribute in a significant way to the mitigation and to really addressing the problem. So we need to educate our population. We need to get our communities involved. We have to get people involved and make them understand that their daily actions contribute to what is happening. So we would see in the north, the areas where you have proper drainage and so on might not be as affected as areas that did not. The rivers that were impacted most, we need to analyze and say, okay, what can be done to really address that in the future? Because believe you me, this is not going to be the last time we're seeing events like what happened yesterday.
So true, so true. Let me also just merge this our bit. Climate change and health in small developing states as Grenada and so forth. There's a lot of we made minimal contribution to global carbon emissions. Islands like Grenada and so forth. We minimal in terms of the emission status of the world today. But how does climate change and health in small development states is becoming an issue?
Well, at COP28, it was the first time that health was placed at the forefront, and there was a specific day on Sunday, December 3rd, that was allocated, or the focus was on health. The Director General of the World Health Organization was there, and you heard presentations from the World Bank and various other institutions, G77 plus China, and so on. And you realize that the world is recognizing that while we talk about climate change and we tend to think more of our infrastructure and what we do in our environment, the bottom line is it is affecting people. And there's enough evidence to show that things like microplastics, the little plastics you don't see in a lot of things that we consume, is really having an impact on our health. When we look at our main health problems, especially in the Caribbean and Grenada, diabetes, hypertension, other chronic diseases, asthma, a lot of the problems with asthma is a result of what's happening in our environment. So the scientists have been able to show now that the link between climate action, things that are happening with regards to climate change, and the link with health is strong. When you look at the impact that climate change is having on agriculture, it is then going to affect our nutrition through our production of food. So we have to recognize that climate change, while it is the buzzword for this last several years, it is linked to other sectors of the economy, other sectors of life. So that is why, if I could go into now the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, we see climate action as goal number 13, and it is really one of these pillars of the SDGs that has been given most prominence. But the 17 SDGs are very interrelated, and we have to look at them in a more comprehensive way. And through this program and many more that we will do in the new year, we have to educate our population and get them to become more aware of the Sustainable Development Goals.
Now, what are some of those plans, if there's any that has been put out as thought of, I would ask, especially for small islands like Grenada, in terms of climate change? What are some of those plans that we will be kicking into maybe into the new year, if there's any plans thus far?
Well, I should wait on the COP ended on December 12th. That's last week, and the team has come back to Grenada. We're actually submitting our reports this week to the Ministry of Climate Change, and in the new year we'll be pulling together some things. However, there are some general things that I can see must be done. For example, the public engagement, community engagement, talking to people at different levels through programs like these, through other community activities, through targeted discussions with the private sector, with the medical association, with different groups in society. We will be taking a much heightened role in addressing not just climate change, because I tell you, they're all interrelated. We're going to be taking a much more focused approach on the Sustainable Development Goals, because just for general information, because it is very interesting that over the last several months that I've taken on this new position as the ambassador with responsibility for the Sustainable Development Goals, I've been engaging with people, and it is surprising the amount of people that do not know what are the Sustainable Development Goals. And when we recognize that the SDGs covers the period 2015, yes, 2015 to 2030, and Grenada, unfortunately, does not have the structure in place. We have not focused on the SDGs in a comprehensive way to do some of the things that are necessary to educate the population, one, to localize the SDGs, because the global goals are general for all countries of the world. But each country needs to look at it and see how the 17 goals are relevant to their local society. And the whole coordinating mechanism is extremely important. So one of the things that we've done in the last several weeks, we've had some support from ECLAC in looking at the structure of addressing data for the SDGs, information pertaining to the 17 goals. How can we strengthen that? Because it is recognized that while we're midway in the period 2015 to 2030, the infrastructure is not in place in Grenada. So in the new year, we will be looking a lot more closely at who are the actors, who are the stakeholders involved in each of the 17 goals. And of course, you can Google the SDGs. For those of you listening who might not be aware, Google it and you will see the 17 goals, because I won't go through the 17 of them here. However, they're all interrelated, and in the new year, please God, we hope to have a greater public engagement to hear from people how the realities of their lives are factored into these SDGs. And as we look at developing programs and projects within the context of the SDGs, we would recognize that there's funding available. The World Bank has several facilities that support the implementation of the SDGs. There are agencies that have resources focused on small island developing states. You have money focused on oceans, and as a result, we have to be in contact with those out in the global community who are involved in the disbursement of those resources, and ensure that Grenada gets its fair share through the provision of strong projects and programs that is based in local communities.
All right, thank you so much, Ambassador. We drew for a break. Let's take it. We come back and we chit chat some more. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV. We'll be right back after the break.
Like family, it's always exciting when lottery players get together. Now the lottery games are joining in the fun. Check out the multiplier family of Instacash games. 5 times the cash at $2, 10 times the cash at $3, and 20 times the cash at $5. On your tickets, match any of our numbers with any of the winning numbers and win the prize below that number. There's more. Multiply your winnings up to 5 times, 10 times, or 20 times more. Winning is easy. Play Monday to Sunday. There are no draws to wait on. Win instantly. It's the multiplier family of Instacash games with over $675,000 to be won instantly. Don't just buy one, buy all, because family is everything. Must be 18 years and older to play. NLA, making family dreams come true.
On this Christmas episode of Caribbean Passport, there is holiday cheer from Barbados to the Bahamas. We take in the musical talents of the Love Movement, the Carters, and Ray Holman. And of course, our taste buds will be satisfied. All this and more on this holiday edition of Caribbean Passport, right here on this station.
want you to control your anger. There's a way to feel better. That's one thing to remember. No matter where you are, you can be a star. Stop and take a deep breath and relax yourself. Take another deep breath and relax it, and relax it. Eliminate violence.
Let me see. Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to the point here on the Classic Radio, GBN TV. With me this morning, we have Ambassador Kenny Roberts with us this morning, and we're talking this morning climate change. We spent our first 15 minutes of the conversation, 15 to 20 minutes of our conversation this morning, speaking a whole lot about climate change, its effects on the small island development states, inclusive Grenada and other islands of the Caribbean. Ambassador Roberts, welcome back. I want to shift our conversation a wee bit to COP28 in this segment. If it's possible for you to tell me what was some of the what was the agreement of COP28 this time around? If we could start on that note.
There's a lot of reports out there that you can get more detailed information on. But as I mentioned earlier, on the first day, one of the big decisions that was made is that the Loss and Damage Fund, which is a fund that will be established to support countries, especially the more vulnerable countries, in addressing problems as a result of impacts of climate change. So, for example, I think what happened yesterday could be a good test to see how it functions, because the Loss and Damage Fund is supposed to assist in that. But it's just established, and they're talking about the resources going into it and so on. But that was the main decision. There were a lot of tight negotiations between the more developed countries and the small island developing states. And Samoa is the chairperson for the OASIS, the Alliance of Small Island States. And they were the spokesperson predominantly for us. And the negotiators from the SIDS, they met, and unfortunately, by the time they got to the final session, a decision was made to support the final documents without that last input from the SIDS. Again, you can see the details if you go online and check it out. But the big agreement that was highlighted is that the world has recognized, because of the science, that the greatest contributor to climate change is fossil fuels. And as a result, the oil and gas drive in the world has been recognized as the thing that needs to be addressed. So the wording had to be modified and to get the support of everyone. But the crux of the bottom line is that the agreement encouraged countries to work on activities that would reduce the growth of use of fossil fuels, and I know it will take a long time, but going in the direction of reducing fossil fuels was the major decision.
All right.
Again, I would add that the whole collaboration, especially among the groupings from the small island development states, was again significant, and it shows how, when you work together with a common focus, you can have a great impact. And I really appreciated the role of our main negotiators, Dr. Spencer Thomas, Leon Charles, and others like Aria St. Louis and others, Lester Smith, who really played their role in helping see how Grenada can benefit. So yes, it was a good experience, and interacting with the people, and I had the opportunity to meet the president of Cuba and had a nice little chat with him. Met with the Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, and the head of the ocean at the UN envoy on oceans, Mr. Johnson, and others who, when we shared what is going on in Grenada, they were all impressed. They were seeing Grenada coming on the front line of global activities again, and it was a refreshing feeling to know that Grenada is playing a role and contributing to the global effort. And Minister James was a real stalwart. She moved from session to session. P.S. Johnson from her ministry was her key support in making sure that things flowed smoothly. And the Grenada delegation at COP really showed a synergy. President of the Senate, Dr. Decima Williams, who was once the UN ambassador and also the Secretary General's envoy for the Sustainable Development Goals. So she was a really pillar with the experience and guiding us. And they had two young youth members of the delegation whose experience was I'm sure sharpened significantly, and the team generally was very cohesive. And I think when we meet and discuss what next, Grenada is going to be even stronger for COP29, which is going to be in Azerbaijan.
All right, great. Because, my next question was also leading, if you could also tell us, of course, just for the benefit for the listening and viewing, some of the key takeaways you would say from, COP28. If there's any key takeaway, you did mention some in your initial statement. What are some of the key takeaways from COP28?
Well, again, I think Grenada delegation was a large one, and I think it showed that we are building capacity, because to really benefit from those events and rather just be a trip you go on to see a place and you spend the time shopping, the Grenadian delegation were working every day to attend meetings. We had a WhatsApp chat group, so I was, even though I wasn't there for the entire period, I was there following on a daily basis what is happening, and it was really a strong team working in the interest of Grenada. So I think coming out of COP, if the Grenada delegation can then, review and planning for the next year, maximize what we have achieved there, I think that would be a great success for the country. The building of relationships is something that we take for granted, but when you go out there and you participate in forums, and I was asked to be on a panel looking at the nexus between health and climate change, and reflecting on what Grenada health system looks like, and we take for granted, but we have a pretty good structure. What we need is to strengthen the health system pillar by pillar and really go back to our communities and get people to recognize the role they have to play, the role of their family, the role of communities, the role of the institutions like the churches, the schools, the workplaces, and so on, and the importance of the policy level. So at the policy level, we have to ensure that we put the structures in place to make things work smoothly. So it's a collaborative effort. So I think COP28 really brought a team of people together that I hope will be a major contributor to the outcome, so that we won't be saying it was a trip to Dubai, but really seeing the outcomes. And of course, the resources that are out there, we have to learn to tap into it. There's a big drive for debt forgiveness. How can we get our debts to be forgiven? So we have to look at creative ways of addressing our economic realities, our social realities, and realize that it's a team effort. We have to work collectively. We have to show that we tap into the skills and talents of all Grenadians, and where necessary, as we collaborate regionally and internationally, we have to work as teams. And once we focus on the development of our country and with the focus on development of our people, I'm sure that gradually we will see the progress. Because trust me, 40 years go by quickly. Those of us in my age group realize that 40 years ago, we had a revolutionary period that shaped a lot of us. And here we are 40 years later, talking as if the next 40 years is far. We might not be here, but for our children and grandchildren, we are looking 40 years down the road as pretty soon. And trust me, we have to ensure that the next 10 years is significantly better than the last 30 that we've had. And to do that, we have to work collectively. And I think COP28 was an eye-opener for me personally. And I hope that our team share that same feeling, that it's an excitement as we go forward.
What are some of the areas you see COP28, of course, will benefit Grenada and other small island development states?
Okay, well, I think based on COP28, the focus on health, there is going to be a heightened activity with regards to the linkage between health and climate change. So, for example, some of the resources that have become available, we have to examine it and see what projects. So, for example, our Climate Smart Hospital, that is a major initiative of the government, we have to see how we can link that with climate change. So, for example, the infrastructure getting to the hospital and the infrastructure in that area has to be developed, and to do it in such a manner that we can deal with a hurricane and floods and so on. We need proper design and construction. I believe that is a project that can be incorporated into the whole community where the new hospital is going to be. So this is just an example of one of the areas that has come out of COP28, the focus on health. So we're going to be re-examining a lot of the science, because the World Health Organization and other agencies are producing more and more documentation to show the science. And we have to recognize that there are a lot of things that we can do as a small island state that can help us in reducing the problem down the road. So I think we have to see the region and Grenada in particular as taking an intersectoral approach to addressing our needs. And while the focus was on health, the linkage with agriculture, with infrastructure, with social development generally, with community development, with the state of our rivers. For example, look at the amount of rain we got in the north. The way in which our rivers are constructed, if I should call it, a lot of it is natural, but a lot of it is impacted by our communities. There are a lot of areas, a lot of rivers in Grenada since Ivan has debris in it that I believe that a project to clean and develop and improve our river flows can have long-term benefits on problems that we might see as a result of events like yesterday. So we now have to be creative, and we now have to work with the public sector investment program. We have to work in a coordinated way to see how we can now develop our projects. And rather than looking for 40 and 50 million US, we should be developing some projects in the range of 200, 300 million US, where the bulk of it would be financed through these regional and international funds that will be linked to climate change. So I am confident that the government is going to be looking at the big picture, and that is why part of our role in Ministry of Foreign Affairs is to go out there into the world and try to see how we can work with our teams to maximize the amount of resources we can get to benefit Grenada. So I believe that COP28, in my opinion, from my perspective, health and the linkages with the other sectors became the element that I think had the greatest impact on my involvement. And I look forward to the rest of the team and their perspective on what impacted their role, because as I said, the team was 20 plus, and we had a lot of people attending different forums. So when the report comes out, I'm sure that the minister and the PS and others will be able to give you some of their angles of it. But this is from my perspective.
All right, great. I mean, I know your background is strongly on health, so health and climate change will certainly be a key factor that you will play that serious role in. But I also wanted to get your perspective on this. One of the key issues that was watched from COP28 when I of course reviewed it a wee bit, there was that rapid and equitable shift from fossil fuel. That was a serious conversation that was had a whole lot. What's your take on that?
Well, again, as we rightly said, one of the main agreements was to reduce the use of fossil fuels. And it means that we now have to look at alternative ways of generating or energy. And the whole push for solar, Grenada presented their project or geothermal project. Brother Hal Samuel, he was there, and in the forums that we had, he presented. And so Grenada is pushing their use of non-traditional ways of generating energy. And as we saw with the project in Carriacou, with the solar panel project, and more, you're going to be seeing the government looking at solar and other forms of alternative energy as a push to reduce the use of fossil fuel.
There was also another key, of course, issue that was spoken about a whole lot was the transform of food and land use. The system and to protect forest reserves and so forth. You're taking that also?
Again, we have to do our little part, because I made reference to our rivers as an example of what I think we have the potential to focus on in the immediate future, because it's there, it's in our communities. I have one in the backyard. So if we get communities to come together, and if we get some small funding, and we really target our rivers, we target our community drains and our other infrastructure, I think we can gradually do more and more, especially for ourselves in addressing. So our little forest in Granite Tank, we have to nurture it and take care of it. We have to look at things in a holistic way, because agriculture is what provides us with food. And again, the nutrition is an integral part of health. So again, it is showing you the linkages. And when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, you see the whole spectrum from low poverty to zero hunger to health, education, and climate action, and all these 17 goals. We have to really approach it in a much more focused way and involve people. So getting a national coordinating committee to deal with the SDGs is one of the activities we have in the work plan of 2024, to really get the work of the SDGs on a more national level and give it the prominence it deserves, even though we're halfway through its implementation.
So what kind of Grenadian people in terms of climate change? Are we taking climate change serious as we should? Are we taking the effects of the changes that are occurring in the world today as serious as we should as Grenadians? As I said earlier on, we are making a minimal dent in the way climate change is affecting the world today, but we are also making a dent, even though as small as it is. What kind of advice would you like to offer, especially to our Grenadian people, in terms of ways or things that we can do, to minimize the effects for us for the future?
All right. I would, I taught this thing for a lot of years. So they have some little models and structures in my head where you can't blame anybody as individuals. We have to look at a combination of effects, a combination of factors that contribute. And as a result, it takes a combination of factors to address it. So at the personal, individual level, we have to recognize that when you brushing your teeth, don't leave the pipe on continuously. Because you're supposed to brush your teeth for 2-3 minutes. And if you have the pipe open for 2-3 minutes, and if you have the pipe open, that means you're rushing it and you're not brushing your teeth properly. So when we take in a shower, when Grenadians visit Carriacou and Petit Martinique, and they see how we deal with our water and how we use water, it is very different to what we do on the mainland. So on the mainland, we have to take some examples from Carriacou and Petit Martinique and how we use of water. So at the individual level, we have, at the family level, we have certain things that we can do also. Washing on the car, using a bucket rather than the hose, and doing certain things, reducing your consumption of electricity and so on. These are things that we can do at the family level. At the community level, we need to be cleaning our drains. We need to be taking responsibility for what goes on in our community. Because when mosquito is breeding by your neighbor, it impacts you. So we have to get that community spirit revived in the workplace, in the churches, and the different organizations, in the Rotary, and all. They're playing their role in different ways, but we have to interact them and create synergy and linkages. And of course, at the policy level, government has a major role to play in setting the tone, because government's role is to create the environment for things to happen smoothly, naturally, without too much involvement, quote unquote. However, a strong policy is dependent on strong institutions and strong communities and strong families and strong individuals. So we have to play that.
Mr. Robert, I guess we lost you there for a wee bit. I'm not sure what's wrong
People are not involved in anything
all right.
effectively in the community.
All right. We due for a break, Ambassador Roberts. Let's take that break. We come back and chat some more. And to benefit for our listeners and viewers out there, if you do have a question or two you may like to ask Ambassador Roberts, feel free to do that in the next segment when we come back. We'll be right back after the break. Don't touch your dial.
I want you to control your anger. There's a way to feel better. That's one thing to remember. No matter where you are, you can be a star. Stop and take a deep breath and relax yourself. Take another deep breath and relax it, and relax it. Eliminate violence. Rock the box, we say, yeah. GBN, we say, arts and culture living, yeah. Rock the box, we say. I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box, we say. I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box, we say. We'll be jamming here on a Thursday. It's a
Our Climate Reality Key Takeaways is made possible by Republic Bank.
I would like to say climate change is running faster than we are. So we definitely need to borrow from the words from Honorable Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados. So we definitely need to pick up space and we need to pick up scope in going forward. And climate change is really challenging to us. And in order for us to address the challenges, finance is key, finance is available. So let's take on a whole of society approach to access the finance. Communities, NGOs, private sector, and government, let's all do our part to ensure that we create a greener space for sustainable Grenada.
But I would want to leave you here, though, to communities. Please contact the Jeff Small Grants Program. The email address gefsgp@grenada@gmail.com. You can call the telephone number, cell number 416-1425, or you can call the landline 435-7445. Call the Grenada, the Jeff Small Grants Program, call the GDB and the other institutions that are on the front line for climate action in Grenada. Do your part in making Grenada more resilient.
Climate change is real. We must act now.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. We're in the final segment of the program this morning here on Classic Radio, GBN TV. With me this morning, we have Ambassador Robert Abisma. Ambassador, welcome back once again. I did invite, of course, our listeners and viewers, if they have any questions or that they may like to ask, if they feel free to do so. I think we do have our first caller. Let's go to the line. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, GT, and morning to Ambassador Robert. I want to say that I wish I could have much hope, but I have heard things. I have heard the enthusiasm of others in the past, including when the Samoa pathway even the Barbados Plan of Action, the Millennium Development Goal, South Africa stuff. I mean, I'm saying that to say, very often delegation go and they report so much, possibilities, and it doesn't matter the government, except that I must commend the NDC for having a little more sincere approach than the previous one. But to me, I don't know, because the system, Samora Pathway, the Sustainable Development, the Small Island meeting, the 2014, had a large delegation. I remember when the folks come, we will do this, and nothing happened. In addition, there are people who are on their mind in this country who know and what to do. How are we going to stop that kind of stuff from happening and let people who know and who are willing and have the passion to do what they want? Thirdly, in terms of if we're going to do anything, we must approach it from a community point of view, especially when it comes to the so-called common man or the everyday person. It must be community. And there's little sign of community in Grenada, and we know why. What is the reason for it? From 1983 to now, we have saw a dismantling of society. So we must work on that. And Mr. Roberts, I hope you would support, especially as you're saying in terms of the health aspect, the climate. In January, in honor of Dr. Winston Thomas and Michael Jones, both former members, executive member, Friends of the Earth, and being an annual activity, we will be hosting a webinar on cancer, food, and the climate crisis. We already have a high-powered team of people to discuss it. I hope you would support us in reaching as much people, because we are told that cancer is a major issue for us, and of course climate change or climate crisis is adding to that. So I hope that you would support us. Finally, in terms of how we respond, for years I've been talking about a number of things, including the fact that the heat was going to come on us. And even on this radio station, and GT probably will be a witness. And recently I've been saying, look, we've been having the heat. Okay, are we preparing for when the rain comes, when the water comes on? And it don't seem we've been doing anything. So that's why the incident yesterday and the day before have taken out by surprise. We need to really do seriously and stop talking. Unfortunately, we do too much talking in this country. Thanks.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning. Any response to the caller, Ambassador Roberts?
Well, I am a bit more optimistic. I believe that even in recent times, right now, the bushing crew has been cleaning and cleaning up drains and so on. So to say that nothing is happening is not really consistent with what I'm seeing taking place. I am pretty confident that the team that went to COP28 will be meeting and reviewing what has been addressed and coming up with our strategies for the next year. I'm comfortable with the leadership of Deacon Mitchell and his thrust for the transformational process for Grenada. I believe that the vision he has is consistent with a lot of us who were youth 40 years ago, when the revolution, while it was 4.5 years and while it had good, bad, and the ugly, we saw certain things take place that was as a result of the collective energies of people. We have to develop strategies to go back to communities. We have to use the people at the local level with the local knowledge to guide what is happening. So yes. So I believe, Brother Joe, you have been in the trenches for a long time. I know the history. I know the realities, and we chat well. So send me a note with regards to the forum in January, and we'll see what role I can play.
All right, let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. Yes, we lost that caller there. 435-2041. We're speaking with, of course, Ambassador Roberts this morning. If you do have a question or two you may like to ask, feel free to do so. Let's go back to the phone line. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Morning. I remember some time ago, at least recently, there was some body that is in the same COP28. Apparently, there's this big controversy. I had to ask Kennedy about that. This big controversy that person was doubting the science that talks about the fossil fuel and so on and whatnot, and responsible for the earth being hot and the people were able to achieve 1.5 Celsius. And there was this big thing, I think they made the man apologize, or there was some controversy that he was querying the science, just like I don't believe in no climate change, but this is just nonsense, because the climate is always changing. And if people are Christians, as a Christian society is, and God made the earth, and when he made everything was perfect, no man can destroy it. So all this thing about that's nonsense. But going back to the issue, there was a very prominent person in that same COP that I think information went out and people quarreled with him.
Let me tell you what the issue was. The president of COP, who is from the United Arab Emirates, that's where Dubai, that's where we had the meeting. Yeah. He made a statement that was not taken in proper context. And he was not arguing with the science, because he eventually agreed, and there were many other forums where he expressed understanding of the science. But a lot of these journalists, they would take one thing you say and try to twist it, and the fact that you're raising it here without even understanding the conclusion of it is an indication of how journalists can take things and twist it. And you have your personal opinion, Anne-Marie, but the reality is what is happening in the world. Yes, the climate is continually changing. But what you're not factoring in is the amount of things that are taking place in the world. Every other day, they're shooting some satellite up in space to watch what is going on in the world. A lot of things are happening that is impacting what Papa God gave us naturally. So you have to realize that when we talk about climate change, we're not saying that the climate not changing all the time. We're saying the impact it is having on countries, especially small countries, is as a result of the action taken, including the burning of fossil fuel. So by you coming and say this is your opinion, and you should keep it to yourself, because you need to recognize that the science is out there. So go and do some reading and understand the bigger picture. And what came out of COP28 is that we need to educate the population a lot more. So people like yourself who go on the radio, all stations, and really put things out there, should not be just saying things based on your opinion, but it must be based on the evidence and the facts too.
All right, thank you there for your response there. There's another question coming from someone via our Facebook page, the Ambassador Roberts, and this is what it says. Mr. Roberts, we have one of the highest figure leading in the climate change in the as the president. Can you tell us how does it keep Grenada seen that he's Grenadian, and what pushes is made to, or what push is made to see Grenada get their fair share? And can you tell us the budget for climate change? I hope I'm kind of reading it as it was written, and I hope you understand what the question is all about.
Okay, I think they're making reference to Brother Simon Steele, who is now the executive director of the UNFCCC. They were the hosts of the meeting, and with him, I didn't have the opportunity to interact with him, but he made certain presentations throughout the period, and he highlighted the importance of working with small island development states. While I don't have the specifics to talk about what is his contribution, I believe that we have to be prepared internally. We have to not depend on others to just give us, but we have to go out there and seek and work towards achieving what we want. Too many times over our history, we accept things without really highlighting what we want. And I believe that by us understanding our needs, understanding our people, and preparing the projects and programs to go out there, we should get our benefit. But I think having Brother Simon Steele as the executive director is definitely going to benefit small island states, because he's given that perspective, because he was our former Minister of Environment.
Let's entertain another caller. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Yes, thank you very much. Pleasant good day to Mr. Ambassador. Sorry. Words well spoken, sir. I fully well support and agree with you on your last comments there pertaining to the last caller. Words well spoken.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I guess individuals just sharing their contribution. Yeah. But GT, as we coming close to the end, somebody sent me a thing about what really is these SDGs, and the SDGs is really the United Nations plan for 2015 to 2030 that followed up from the Millennium Development Goals 2000 to 2015 that looks at the people, planet, prosperity, peace in a significant way. And those 17 goals is far-reaching into all aspects of our lives, and Grenada really can benefit a lot more by us understanding what is going on in the world, what is these 17 goals, and especially getting our youth involved. We're going to be working with schools and going out in communities and really talking about the goals, and hopefully by the end of 2024 SDGs will become a buzzword, and everybody will know what it means and how it impacts them in their community. And what happened yesterday is in my opinion a classic example of what happened with regards to goal number 13, climate action, that is showing us at the local level we are impacted in a significant way, and we need to really see how we can address these things, not just putting a plaster on it, but in the long term. And that's where the global resources becomes available. That's where the concessionary resources at the World Bank and these other institutions come into being, and we have to engage and take a multi-sectoral approach to addressing our development process.
Ambassador Roberts, I want to thank you so much for being on the program this morning. Certainly I'll gain a whole lot from you being here this morning. Any closing comments before we take a wrap this morning?
Well, I was watching my time, so I gave him a closing comment. But I just want to wish everybody a wonderful holiday. I think that we all need to look at ourselves internally, realize that while we can dwell on the past, we have to focus on the future. We have to be thankful. We have to show gratitude for the benefits in our lives. Don't take the little things, the peace and stability for granted, and let's show love for the holidays. Let's do something special. We don't have to be materialistic, but showing somebody the love by listening to them and giving a positive word. Use positive words, especially pertaining to yourself. I meet people regularly who have difficulty addressing their anxiety, their depression, their stresses, and I try to tell them, have faith in God is one, but you also have to have faith in yourself. You need to look at your mind-body relationship and realize that you are the architect of what you think. And by thinking positive thoughts for this season and building that into your psyche, I'm sure we'll have a much loving and more productive society. So it's a pleasure to be here, GT, and best wishes to all.
And I want to thank you so much for that closing comment. I want to say all the best to you, sir, and compliments for the season to come, and certainly hope you enjoy your holidays. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, folks, that's how we take a wrap for today's edition of To The Point. Thanks all who contributed some way or the other. Have yourself a good one. Goodbye.